what's up guys? Welcome back again with me, Zanafi Farazi. In this video, we will discuss about street photography. But anyway, what is street photography? This is a big question. And sometimes and often, this is a controversial topic. But I'm going to weigh in anyway with my humble opinion. Many people say the label is not important and we don't need the definition because street photography is how we interpret it and what we want it to be. It could be that street photography is photography done on the street, or it could be something else depending on what you mean. Sometimes I agree with this statement, but for people who don't understand and new in the world of street photography, definition will help them understand street photography. And I've read a pretty good definition of street photography that says street photography, a genre photography that records everyday life in a public place. The very publicness of the setting enables the photographer to take candid pictures of strangers, often without their knowledge. Street photographers do not necessarily have a social purpose in mind, but they prefer to isolate the capture moments which might otherwise go unnoticed. You may argue that a definition is limiting and you don't want to be limited. That's cool, that's good. You can totally be a street photographer who is also a documentary photographer of or a fine art photographers who use a street photography approach. And do you ever mind, does there have to be a street? No, definitely not. No, definitely not. The term is both limiting and misleading. Sounds like street photography should be photos of street, right? Of course, actually not. And all street photographers will fully appreciate that street is not the key component to street photography. Street photography, Nick Turpin, is advocating for the term candid public photography to be adopted as a more accurate description of what street photographers do. And says like, it seems to me that street photography as a press now let us down to some extent. It fails to identify the key aspect of our practice, namely that the work is that without intervention. It is made in a public place, not necessarily the street, and it is a photograph drawn with light and not with a computer after the fact. Nick Turpin. He makes a valid point, don't you think? He makes a valid point, don't you think? However, while I agree with him, I'm not sure candid public photography will catch on, because street photography has been around for a long time, with many masters' names attached to it. So I believe the term is here to stay, just can't be taken literally. Street photography is most definitely not limited to a street. In fact, you can do it anywhere, inside or outside. Yes, inside, why not? You can shoot at the beach, at the festival, in an alley, in a bridge, or in a cafe, in park, at a museum or art gallery. And you don't even need actual people, just some evidence of them. Your street photography can be documentary in style or fine art or abstract or funny. It can be interpretation rather than a description. It can be an observation. It can be an observation of a quirky moment that exists. It can be an observation of a quirky moment that exists only for the gloriously It can be an observation of a quirky moment that exists only for the gloriously serendipitous. It can be an observation of a quirky moment that existed only for the gloriously serendipitous second when you saw it. It can be an observation of a quirky moment that exists only for that gloriously serendipitous So if it can be so many things in so many places, then if it can be so many things and in so many places. Okay, next we will discuss about the types of street photography. Street photography is something that I love, but it's also quite difficult to do. Here I will write down the types of street photography where each type has its own characteristic and goals. And here you can choose the type that will help you do street photography. But the types that will be mentioned are only according to my understanding, and so feel free if you want to add a correct or at some point maybe, please let me know in comment column, because I hope that these types can help me and help you to determine how to do street photography according to your favorite. So let's talk about the types of street photography. And to make it easier to explain based on several aspects, we will divide it into two parts, and we can call it know people and with people. Okay, we start from the first one is architecture. In fact, architectural photography is a kind of photography in its own category. But if you go out into the street, you can use the arrangement of buildings that can be arranged and look beautiful. Depending on the photo taking will create a beautiful composition. And number two, theme street photography. Maybe you were taking pictures of certain theme in the city. Maybe like bicycle area in a city, or maybe it could be a motorcycle parking area that is neatly arranged and good for taking pictures. Or maybe doors, it's very popular. Number three is people implied. People implied can be a part of human. I mean, we can interpret it whatever we want. And here maybe we can just take a picture of the feet, or maybe we can take a picture whatever it is left by humans, or whatever it is evidence that a person was there. Number four is animal. Yes, as the name implies, if we do not photograph humans, we can do photographs any animals, like we can photograph pigeons on the streets, or we can photograph pets brought by people, or whatever. The point is animals that you consider is interesting to be captured. Number five is light and shadow. It means we can photograph shadows. Maybe this will be suitable when down in the morning or afternoon. And we can take pictures of buildings exposed to the sun, or we can take picture of the shadow, which are quite unique. Alright, we move to second part, which is people. And the first one is journalism. Photojournalism can capture news or capture stories, but you can apply street photography philosophy which is capturing moments on the street. So you can use aspect of journalism in your street photography. Maybe when there are demonstration or protests. And number two is story. It's a type that quite difficult for photographers because in an image we have to make a story or capture a story. A photographer must have a high enough sense to be able to capture that moment. And number three is portraiture. And talking about people, maybe maybe we can do this when someone is aware of the camera, when then you take photo that person, and then there is someone who is really maybe pose because he or she is aware that they are being photographed. This is something I like because capture their expression and we know their reaction when we take photos. When we photograph someone on the street, of course, we need ethics and rules so that we don't disturb or make people uncomfortable. There are also rules about whether or not street photography is legal. However, ethics returns to the opinion of each photographer because everyone has their own opinion. And here I will share a little about the things that must be considered when you do street photography, especially when you take pictures of people. But this is just an opinion. You are free to determine your ethics but don't harm others. Okay, the first point is asking permission. Regardless of whether it is legal requirement or not, obvious way to avoid a confrontation is to ask permission. Contrary to popular belief, street photography doesn't necessarily have to be a candid. Street photography is about empowering the inhabitants of our urban landscape and highlighting the beauty of the mundane. This can be done with or without asking permission, depending on the situation. In asking permission to take person photographs, prepare yourself for the prospect of rejection. If a subject say yes, go ahead and snap away. But if the person say no, simply smile, thank them, and move on. Don't push the matter. And second point is motive. Another key factor in approaching street photography ethically is motive. Why is it that you are practicing street photography in the first place? As I mentioned before, taking some time out to evaluate your motive and goals will result in images with greater impact because you know what you are looking for. But be careful not to get too mercenary. Your subject have feelings too, and they deserve respect. And point number three is making a connection. A solid grounding in ethical photography often leads to better photographs. When you know where you stand with your photographic practice, people can tell by your body language. A better grasp on your own ethics will give you confidence, which will help form a connection with your subjects and give you greater command over a situation. And as I've already mentioned, asking permission is one way to ensure a smooth photo. There are other ways too, of course. A smile is the easiest way to signal to someone that you have good intention. If someone catch you taking their photographs, they will generally look to you out of curiosity and respond with genuine smile, and 9 out of 10 times your subject will smile back and carry on with their day. And sometimes a subject you have photographed will approach you with a question like this. For example, why did you take my picture? Or maybe, what are you doing with the photographs? Simply explaining that you are a photographer and articulating the motive behind the photographs in friendly manner will usually satisfy a person's curiosity of or concerns. And the point is that when we do street photography, we still respect the subject we are capturing as a sign of gratitude for being allowed to take pictures. And if this video useful for you, please don't forget to like and subscribe this channel. I'm Zed Hanafi Farozi. Peace and thank you. Bye bye.